watching Indie Game Award 2022 Winners Interview. We're here with the winning team of Best Audio Game, Glee-Cheese Studio. Hi, Charles. How are you?
Hi, April. I'm fine. Everything's going pretty fine, and I'm very happy to be with you today.
So, can you tell us about yourself, your role in the studio, and give the audience a brief introduction to a musical story?
Okay, so we're a very small team. We're just four, and we all have multiple roles, let's say. So, for example, I'm the game designer, the main game designer, because we're two making the game design, and the writer and co-composer. We're two composers for the music. In the studio, there's also the art director, who also worked on the scenario, and there's another composer and a developer which made game design with me. So yeah, we all make multiple tasks, and we've created this game which is called a musical story, and the game is what it says. Everything is contained in the title. It's a musical game which tells a story. So by playing the music, you unlock bits of the story. It's the story of a young man called Gabriel. It happened in the 70s. You will travel in the memories of Gabriel, and each time you manage to play a music the right way, you unlock bits of the story.
What is the game takes place in the 70s? Like, what do the 70s means to you or to other team members?
That's interesting because the 70s were not our first choice. I mean, I think I've written something like 7 different scenarios with hundreds of pages for a game that has no text. But after some time, I remember Alexandre, our art director, telling me, it would be good if we made a road trip. And when I started thinking about it, I immediately had the van idea in my mind, because I think for a lot of people, a road trip is in a van. And once I had the idea of a van, I had the idea of the 70s. It became immediately clear. And then I remember talking with Valentin, my other composer mate, and we were like, why didn't we think about the 70s before? I mean, we've been making music together since 20 years now. And we've always been inspired by music from the 70s. It's always been the kind of music we loved. We're huge fans of bands like Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin, etc. So yeah, it was clear for us that making a game where we could be inspired by the 70s music was something fantastic. And it's fantastic for a lot of things, because visually it's very interesting too. Because you have the way people dress, you have the van, you have lots of things that are very typical to the 70s era. So yeah, it made everything more interesting when we found out that the 70s would be our playground.
Great. And about the game, so can you tell us what do you want to design, like a slow-paced rhythm narrative game, like with no words in it?
We had in mind that we wanted to make a musical game. We wanted it to be very different from other musical games, because we didn't want to make a game that relied on a playhead. We wanted players to focus on listening and understanding the music. That's very important for us. And we also knew that we wanted to tell a story. And that's something that never changed. We thought about, okay, what if playing the music unlocked the story? So at first it was each note you played made something appear in the screen. And we changed it because at first the game was 3D, so it was very different. When we saw that we had something that functioned, in the way we revealed bits of story with the gameplay, with the music, it was clear that we shouldn't put any text in the game. We had an example for this, and we kept it in mind. In the movie Up from Pixar, at the very beginning of the movie, there's this 4 or 5 minutes, I don't remember, sequence where you see the whole life of the main character, the old character. During this sequence, there is no voice, there is no text, there's nothing like this. It's just very short scenes and very emotional ones that show the entire life of the character. And we were like, okay, this is precisely what we want to do, because they tell everything with visuals and story and music. So that was a great inspiration, and yeah, that's what we try to apply to our game.
So you mentioned that the gameplay and the functions. So do you make the gameplay first, then the music?
So yeah, the gameplay came first. And for example, what it meant for the music is we are making music like music teachers at first. And we are not thinking about instruments or anything else. We're just thinking about rhythm patterns and how we're gonna tell them to the players so that they learn more and more by playing the game. At first, the gameplay was just made of horrible music instruments like and we just tried it for gameplay purposes and to understand how players will progress in the game. When we were happy with this, we wrote the storyboards for each level. With the storyboards in mind, we knew which instrument and which mood we could bring to each level. So that's a very particular way of creating a game.
So like, how do you design different levels? Because like for the first one, it's pretty easy and there's just like dot dot dot, right? But after the game progress, it gets harder, and there are like different music in it. So like, how do you design the levels?
At first, I think with the scenario I wrote, we could have had something like 50 levels. But it wouldn't mean anything. We're in a game that relies on only one mechanics, you know? So it shouldn't be a game that lasts for 10 hours. It wouldn't make sense and it would be annoying. We want the experience to be short, something around 2 or 3 hours, but to be poignant and to be strong, so that we have only the most important things and the things we think are important to tell the story. Sometimes a scene is very important because of its mood, because of a short thing happening in it that tells far more than an action. For example, we have this level that on our side we call threatening nature. I think right in the middle of the game, and it's the real moment where the mood changes. And for us, it was a way to show that the mood of the game is gonna change just by the weather, you know? It's very complicated to decide between levels, because at first you always think that I should choose a level because lots of things are happening in it, and it's not always a good choice. We wanted it to be a journey, and to do that you have to make radical choices.
And you mentioned about the different themes in the game, and the most impressive part for me is like the purple bird in the game. Can you tell us like what did you choose like the purple bird to represent the dark side of the character?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So we had to choose to make graphic choices showed more mystery. You had to be seduced by what you saw from this bird, you know, frightening and seductive at the same time. So that's why we chose the cartoon style, so that it was very different and colorful. Making another style was an interesting choice because the players would immediately see that what is this thing? It's very different. So at first they think, oh, it's funny. but very quickly they see that no, it's not funny. It's related to problems with him. And it's darker and darker and darker. So the crow is like the bad news bird, you know? And so it was a way to announce darker tone. And for the purple color, that's a very good question. I mean, I think it was just a color that was chosen because it looked good and it was a good way to be very different from everything else on screen. Sometimes some choices are very simple.
We can see a lot of like creative elements in the game. So could you share with us like what is most difficult part when you're developing the game? Like the narrative, the music, or the visuals?
Well, to be very honest, I think all parts have been very challenging on our end because we tried to innovate on everything. We must be one of the only games ever that relies on 70s music or that has this kind of vibe in the game. And it was on the musical side, it was also a challenge because most of the music game rely on electronic or techno music, and that was a challenge that we knew we wanted to face at first because we had to prove that you can make a musical game with very different kinds of music and it can work and it can be accessible even if it can be hard. For the art, there were many challenges too because, well, Alexandre was mostly alone and being able to to create this vibrating image was something very complicated because we didn't use an algorithm to make this. Everything was made by hand. So it means that for each image, you have 3 drawn images. So for a whole level, it's hundreds and hundreds of unique drawings. And for design and development perspective, there were huge challenges too. And creating the right user interface for it was a nightmare. I think we spent 2 years finding the right formula.
And you mentioned that the whole process took like 2 years. So can you tell us like what makes you motivated, like during the game development?
It wasn't always easy. There are so many moments where you can be down, but you can't. You have to continue. I want to say a big thanks to our publisher Literati today because we perfectly understand it's something very difficult to take the decision of financing a game like ours. So it takes a lot of courage to go this way. And I want to pay homage today to the founder and the CEO of Literati, Nick Alfieri, who passed a few weeks ago. He was an awesome guy, and we want to thank him. We have deep thoughts for his family, and we really want to thank him for what he did for us because it was awesome, you know. And by entering the production process, it means that okay, you have milestones to respect. You have a release date in mind. You have all those kinds of things that you don't have a choice. Now you have to be motivated and you have to know exactly where to go. So the pre-production phase can be very long, but at the moment you have to say, no, this is the game, we're gonna go this way.
Great. So can you share with us like what do you feel about like after winning Indie Game Award 2022?
We were so happy. I remember calling the co-composer Valentin and telling him, man, we won. I mean, there were the games against us were just fantastic games. And we loved the soundtracks for those games. So on our side, when we saw that we were nominated, we were like, oh, that's awesome. Let's look at the list. We have no chance to win. we were like, there are fantastic games, and we okay, but that's cool. We're here, and when we saw we won, it was like, that's crazy. That's fantastic. I'm so happy. I mean, I have the trophy just
Yes.
on my desk, on my in my office, and I look at it every day, and I'm so proud. We're so proud. We're very proud, and we've been even more proud to see how people enjoyed the game and the soundtrack. And then when the game finally released, we saw everyone telling all those amazing things about the music. And so, yeah, we're very happy with this. I'm very proud of the team, to be honest. I'm very proud of what we achieved.
That's awesome. We're very happy you like the trophy. So, lastly, do you have any messages for the audience?
Well, thank you for supporting us at first. Um, there will be cool things to share about a musical story, but a bit later. Our studio is working on a new project. You're gonna hear about it. It's gonna be a big one. I can't tell you anything right now, except that it's still a musical game, but it's very, very, very different. So you will probably hear more about it during this year, I think. We can't wait to show you more. And thank you very much again for your support, because you're all amazing. Thank you very much.
Can't wait for your next project. So thank you so much for to join the interview today. We really appreciate it. So if the audience want to find you or stay connected, where can they find you, or where can they follow your on social media?
Yeah, the best way to follow us is on Twitter. We have the Twitter page of the studio, which is Glee-Cheese Studio. So please follow us on this page. And well, we're watching every day, so we're here to talk with you and exchange on lots of things. We'll be happy to talk with you again.
Awesome. Thank you again for joining the interview today. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day too. Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching Indie Game Award 2022 Winners Interview. If you like this video, please don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. We're going to have more developers interviews in the coming weeks. Please stay tuned.